Pompeo Colonna was an Italian condottiero, politician, and cardinal. At the culmination of his career he was Viceroy of the Kingdom of Naples for the Emperor Charles V. Born in Rome, he was the son of Girolamo Colonna, whose father Antonio was second Prince of Salerno, and Vittoria Conti, of the Conti de Poli. His family belonged to the highest rank of nobility both of the city of Rome and of the Kingdom of Naples. Pompeo and his family were hereditary supporters of the Holy Roman Empire, and they spent their careers fighting the hereditary enemies, the Orsini family, and defending and expanding the family territories and interests. He played a significant, if sometimes disruptive, role in the conclaves of 1521 and 1523 on behalf of the imperial interest. His family commitments and his conclave activities brought Pompeo into conflict with the second Medici Pope, Clement VII, whose election he vigorously opposed, and made him a leading figure in the overthrow of Pope Clement and the sack of Rome in 1527. Early career. Pompeo's father was killed on 4 March 1482, when he was not yet 3 years old. Young Pompeo was given a rigorous upbringing at Monte Compatrum in the Tusculan hills east of Frascati, under the watchful eyes of his uncles Prospero and Cardinal Giovanni Colonna. He and his first cousin Marc Antonio Colonna, his friend and constant companion, were in constant rivalry with one another, especially in their enthusiasm for military affairs. In 1498, as a young man of 18, Pompeo fought alongside his uncle Prospero, Lord of Genazzano and Nemi, Duke of Trento, Count of Fondi, against the traditional family enemies, the Orsini. His uncle took Pompeo to Naples after the Orsini affair was settled, and introduced the young man to King Federico I, whose fast friend he quickly became. Pompeo later fought on behalf of the Spanish in several campaigns in 1503, culminating in the Battle of Garigliano, in which Piero de' Medici, the elder brother of Giovanni de' Medici, was killed. It was decided by Pompeo's uncles that he should enter upon an ecclesiastical career, so that he could succeed to the rich benefices and powerful offices enjoyed by Cardinal Giovanni. He became the Cardinal's major domo, apparently in 1504. With the cooperation of Pope Julius II, Pompeo was named Protonotary Apostolic in 1507. On the death of Cardinal Giovanni Colonna, who had governed the see of Rieti since 1480, Pompeo was named Bishop of Rieti by Pope Julius II on 6 October 1508. Pompeo ruled the diocese until he resigned in 1520 in favor of his nephew, Scipione Colonna. In 1520, just before his resignation, Cardinal Pompeo increased the number of canons in the Cathedral of Rieti from 28 to 40. The cardinal was not a disinterested philanthropist, though he increased the numbers and prestige of the canons. His nephew also gained 12 benefices which were at the disposal of the bishop to reward Colonna followers. When Bishop Scipio Colonna resigned in 1528, Pompeo Colonna again became Bishop of Rieti, until he resigned in the next year in favor of his own secretary, Mario Alighieri. Pompeo Colonna was also abbot of Subiaco and Grottaferrata. Again in succession to Giovanni Colonna, he was succeeded in 1513 by his nephew Scipione Colonna. Trouble with Pope Julius. In 1511, when rumors of the imminent death of Pope Julius II spread, Pompeo and Antonio Savelli spurred the Roman population to rebel against the papal authority. Paolo Giovio points out that Pompeo was indignant because in the most recent consistory for the creation of cardinals, there was no Roman among the 8 creations. To the surprise of all, however, the barons of Rome were able to reach an agreement among themselves on the 28th of August 1511, and a truce was even arranged between between the Orsini and the Colonna. The nascent civil war was over when the Pope recovered, having been informed of the revolt by his niece the Duchess of Urbino. He did not look with pleasure on Bishop Pompeo Colonna, and he was condemned. He fled to his abbey of Subiaco, while several of his fellow conspirators fled to France. He was offered a pardon by Julius II, but he refused it, since the pardon did not include reinstatement as Bishop of Rieti. Pompeo was so angry that he even threatened to join the French, who had seized Bologna earlier in the year, but his uncle Prospero firmly dissuaded him from such wild designs. Pope Julius II died on Monday, the 21st of February 1513, of a double tertian fever. Pompeo lost no time. He summoned all his friends to his Tusculan estates, and prepared his forces for a march on Rome. Both the Orsini and the Colonna factions entered the city on the 22nd of February. Pompeo immediately made an attack on the house of Cardinal Antonio Maria Sacchi del Monte, who had been made administrator of the Diocese of Rieti when Pompeo had been deposed in 1511, and on Mariano Cucini, an official of the Apostolic Camera, who had drawn up the information through which Pompeo had been condemned. Andrea della Valle undertook to work with the Senate of Rome to bring order back into the city, and managed to negotiate a truce between the Orsini and Colonna, and in particular with Pompeo, who was promised by the Senate that all would be made right if he would lay down his arms. His brother Fabrizio also intervened, and obtained a promise from Cardinal Sacchi del Monte that he would restore Pompeo's episcopal insignia. The conclave of 1513 was able to proceed. The opening ceremonies took place in the Vatican Basilica on Friday, the 4th of March, with 25 cardinals participating. On Friday, the 11th of March, the cardinals elected Giovanni de' Medici, who took the name Leo X. Leo X. Immediately after the election, Leo X received Pompeo Colonna and allowed him to kiss his foot. Pompeo was restored to all of his ecclesiastical functions. Leo also presented Pompeo and his brother Fabrizio with the house and gardens which Julius II had built on land which he had confiscated from the Colonna. Having been reconciled with the papacy, Pompeo spent the next 2 years in the city and at the papal court, enjoying the favor of Leo X. Pompeo Colonna, Bishop of Rieti, participated in the Lateran Council, and at the 7th plenary session on the 27th of June 1513, read out Pope Leo's memorandum on the work of the council, and also announced the postponement of the next plenary session until the 16th of November. Due to the excessive heat of the season, the Colonna family suffered a major disaster when Pompeo's uncle, Prospero Colonna, was defeated and captured at Battle of Marignano on the 14th of September 1515. Prospero had been the leading general of the Sforza of Milan, and had been leading a force of Milanese and papal troops, along with the Swiss, against the Genoese, who were reinforced by the French, led by the young King Francis I and the Chevalier Bayard. Prospero was defeated, captured, and deported to France. Bishop Pompeo Colonna made the journey to France to effect his release, traveling in the middle of the winter of 1515 to 1516. He was caught in an avalanche which engulfed an embassy from Sion just a few steps in front of him. Reaching France, he spent 6 months until the French king made a decision. King Francis, meditating on a plan to reclaim the Angevin Kingdom of Naples, and realizing that he would need the friendly cooperation of the Pope and assistance in the Papal States, generously agreed to release Prospero Colonna, on the condition that Prospero agree in writing to serve under Francis's banner. Having reached Italy, however, Prospero began to raise troops to put at the disposal of Charles V at the siege of Verona. Prospero sent his nephew Pompeo on an embassy to the Emperor Maximilian and King Charles, and charged him with winning over King Ferdinand, Max's grandson. In this he was successful. Ferdinand provided Pompeo with money, and he proceeded through Germany to Brussels, where he engaged in discussions with Prince Charles, who was then Duke of Burgundy and an Austrian Archduke. He was then recalled to Rome by his uncle, Cardinal Pompeo Colonna was created cardinal priest along with 30 other prelates by Pope Leo X in his 5th consistory for the creation of cardinals, on 1 July 1517. On 4 November 1517 he was assigned the titulus of the Basilica 12 Apostolorum. He then became famous for his banquets and intellectual activities. Immediately after his promotion, he was sent to Germany, where he met the emperor in Augsburg, and followed his court, inspecting the German cities and learning of their moral state. He spent a good deal of time hunting with him. He returned to Rome and undertook all the activities of a cardinal in the papal court with enthusiasm and competence. On 7 January 1521, Pope Leo named Cardinal Colonna administrator of the Diocese of Potenza in the Kingdom of Naples. He held the diocese until he was deprived of all of his benefices as a result of his attack on Pope Clement VII in 1526. Each of these administratorships was a source of income for its holder, income which would normally have gone to the bishop, with the obligation to see to the transaction of the diocese's business in the Roman Curia. The administrator also enjoyed the right to fill whatever benefices were vacant during his term, normally a privilege of the bishop. This allowed him to reward his faithful followers and servants at no expense to himself. In the meantime, on the 12th of January 1519, the Emperor Maximilian died. In the struggle to elect his successor, Pope Leo supported Francis I of France, which set him at odds with the king. Leo hoped to be able to recover the cities for the Papal States Parma and Piacenza for the Papal States, which had been seized and garrisoned by King Francis. The result was a 4-year-long war in Italy. One of the French commanders was Pompeo Colonna's childhood friend and cousin, Marc Antonio Colonna, and another was Giacomo Zabeccario, Pompeo's half-brother, which brought great embarrassment. The two cities had scarcely been recovered for the church when Pope Leo was stricken during a hunting party at Magliano, some 6 miles from Rome. Conclave of 1521 to 1522. Pope Leo died on Sunday, 1 December 1521, aged 46, leaving the papacy with debts amounting to 1,154,000 ducats, according to Giovanni Matteo, the secretary of Cardinal Giulio de' Medici. Bishop Guidelotto wrote to the Duke of Urbino that the debt stood at 800,000 ducats. Hieronymus Severino reported to the emperor that the Apostolic See had been left 850,000 ducats in debt by Leo X, and that other debts amounted to an additional 300,000 ducats. The new pope, he said, would be in great financial difficulties. The Emperor Charles had promised to support the English Cardinal Wolsey, but his orders to his agents in Rome ordered support for Cardinal Giulio de' Medici. Secretly, he informed Cardinal Tommaso de Villacagettus that his real preference, when the time was ripe, was for Cardinal Adrian of Dertosa, his boyhood tutor and his current regent in Spain. The Florentine orator, in a moment of complete frankness, wrote on the 18th of December that Medici was not electable, but that he had sufficient votes to prevent anyone else from being elected. On the 20th, the Venetian ambassador reported that Pompeo Colonna had deserted Medici, and that the imperial agent, Monsignor von Lutrech, was remarking that Leo X had been an annoyance to the emperor in the conflict with France over the Duchy of Milan. Juan Manuel, the ambassador of the emperor in Rome, reported to his master on the 6th of January 1522 that Cardinal Colonna was the worst of the opponents of Cardinal.At. The conclave to elect Pope Leo's successor opened on the 27th of December 1521. Cardinal Prospero Colonna was one of 39 cardinals who participated in the deliberations. On Thursday, the 9th of January 1522, Cardinal Adrian Florence Wandadel, who was not even present at the conclave, was elected. One of the imperial votes in his favor was that of Cardinal Colonna. Cardinal Adrian chose to keep his own personal name, and was called Adrian VI. Immediately after the election, a congregation of the cardinals was held, and it was voted that Cardinal Pompeo Colonna and Cardinal Alessandro Cesarini were to be dispatched to Spain to notify the new pope of his election and escort him to Rome. The Pope-elect, however, sent word to Rome that the cardinals should not travel to Spain to meet him. On the 9th of February 1522, he was named governor of Terni. Cardinal Colonna, on the 13th of March 1522, wrote that he and Cardinal Cristoforo Numi had arranged a truce for 6 months between Terni and Collisipoli. Cardinal Colonna has pledged his word to Collisipoli that Terni would not attack them. Following the death of Cardinal Matthias Schinner, Cardinal Pompeo Colonna was named administrator of the Diocese of Catania in Sicily on the 27th of February 1523. He held the administratorship until 18 January 1524, when Marino Carriacolo was appointed bishop. On the same day, the 27th of February 1523, Cardinal Pompeo was named legatus lateri to the King of Hungary and Poland, Sigismund I the Old. He was still in Rome in mid-March, however, when he protested the Pope's investiture of the Duchy of Urbino, which Pompeo claimed belonged to the Colonna dell'Uae. Pope Adrian VI, however, did not survive long. He grew increasingly incapacitated, and succumbed to kidney disease on the 14th of September 1523. He had reigned for 1 year, 8 months, and 6 days. Conclave of 1523. The conclave opened on the 1st of October 1523, with 35 cardinals in attendance. 4 more cardinals joined them over the following weeks. 6 cardinals were unable to attend. One analysis of the participants indicated that the French faction numbered 13, the Imperial faction 4, the Medici faction 16, and 6 neutral cardinals. The French and Imperialists were in jealous competition with one another. Francis I expressed his approval of Cardinal Fieschi, or Cardinal Soderini, or Cardinal Trivulzi, all supporters of French ambitions in northern Italy and Naples. The Emperor Charles expressed his approval of Cardinal Colonna, who was a personal friend, and then of Cardinal de' Medici. There were also several cardinals who had received support at the conclave of 1521 to 1522, who might have harbored ambitions of their own under the right circumstances. They were Cardinals Orsini, Pucci, and Giacobazzi. It was immediately apparent that the French had the votes to exclude any imperial candidate, and the imperial faction likewise. If the imperial and Medici factions joined, however, they had a good chance of making a pope, but they needed 6 votes from elsewhere to realize their goal. The major stumbling block to the plan was the hostility between Cardinal Colonna and Cardinal de' Medici. There was also a division among the cardinals between between the elders and the younger cardinals. The elders were most reluctant to support Cardinal Giulio de' Medici. The cardinals were in no hurry to begin the scrutinies, since the French cardinals had not yet arrived. They occupied the time with the electoral capitulations until the 5th of October. These discussions helped to reveal and give concrete form to the agreements and disagreements among the cardinals. The French arrived on the morning of the 6th of October, and voting began on the morning of the 8th. 2 cardinals, Numa and Cybo, were confined to bed. Cardinal Carvajal, the dean of the College of Cardinals, received 10 votes on the first scrutiny, and managed ultimately to get as many as 12. It was immediately apparent that Cardinal Pompeo Colonna could not attract votes. He therefore turned his attention to frustrating Cardinal de' Medici's ambitions and to promoting an imperial candidate. His choice was Cardinal Domenico Giacobazzi. At some point during the first 2 weeks, Cardinal Della Valle, a member of the Medici faction, managed to poll 16 votes, and 3 cardinals switched to his side at the Accessio. With 19 votes he was within striking distance of the papacy. Medici then pledged 3 of his votes to Della Valle, on the condition that he get 18 votes at the scrutiny, not counting any additional votes at the Accessio. Medici, however, did not deliver the promised votes. This produced a bad feeling all around, and the elders swore that they would never vote for a member of Medici's faction. 4 cardinals who had promised the votes to Medici withdrew the promises. Medici was polling between 16 and 18 votes, but was being opposed by the French faction, who had the 13 votes that they needed to veto him. The voting quickly fell into a pattern, and for 3 weeks there was no change in position. Around the 25th of October, Cardinal Numa received 22 votes, only 4 short of election, but the imperialists remembered well that he had taken his degree at the Sorbonne, and that he was a personal friend and former confessor of the French Queen Mother, Marie of Savoy. On the 31st of October, the French ambassador Pio de Carpi arrived at the gates of the conclave, and showed notable warmth toward his old friend Cardinal de' Medici. The fact was noticed. By mid-November, Cardinal de' Medici became so exasperated at the tactics of Pompeo Colonna that he threatened to put forward the name of Francesco Orsini, one of Pompeo's hereditary enemies, rather than see in Orsini made pope, and aware that he himself could not produce a virtual veto against him. Cardinal Colonna decided that Medici was the lesser of 2 evils, and that he would have to vote for him. But Medici had forced this course of action on Pompeo Colonna. On the 18th of November, Cardinal de' Medici was elected pope, with the support of Pompeo Colonna, Domenico Giacobazzi, and Francesco Armellini de' Medici. He had his 26 votes, which quickly became unanimous. The election was not by inspiration. Giulio de' Medici chose to be called Clement VII, and was crowned at St. Peter's on the 26th of November 1523. Colonna's support was a puzzle for many outsiders, until he was named vice-chancellor, the office just vacated by the new pope, and acquired the Medici Palazzo in Rome. Colonna's secretary, Vincenzo Pimpinello, became one of Pope Clement's secretaries. Clement VII. On the 11th of January 1524, the new Pope Clement VII named Cardinal Colonna to be Vice-Chancellor of the Holy Roman Church, the head of the entire papal secretariat. The vice-chancellorship was the most lucrative of all the offices in the Roman Curia. He was named Cardinal Priest of S. Lorenzo in Lucina on the 1st of November 1524, and was allowed to keep the Basilica 12 Apostolorum in Commendam. Cardinal Colonna was named administrator of the Diocese of Salerno in the Kingdom of Naples on 18 January 1524. He held the post until 23 June 1525, when a bishop was appointed. Early in 1524 the cardinal was also legate to the imperial court, to attempt to bring about a truce between Charles V and Francis I, and Erasmus wrote of him, "He is a clever man, and let us hope his cleverness will secure a truce at least between the monarchs." Quote, he failed, and when Francis invaded Italy in October 1524, he met disaster at the Battle of Pavia on 24 February 1525. On 23 June 1525, Cardinal Pompeo Colonna was named administrator of the Diocese of Rossano in the Kingdom of Naples, following the death of Bishop Juan Fonseca. On 3 July 1525, Monsignor Vincenzo Pimpinella was named the new bishop. Needless to say, Colonna never visited the place. On 3 July 1525, after the resignation of Cardinal Giovanni Piccolomini upon his appointment as Cardinal Bishop of Albano, Cardinal Pompeo Colonna was appointed administrator of the Diocese of Aquileia in the Kingdom of Naples. He held the post until his death. During his term as Viceroy of Naples, he was particularly unaccommodating with regard to a request of Cardinal Piccolomini in the naming of a provost of S. Usanio Forconis, preferring one of his own retinue from Rieti for the benefice.